So here's our replacement clock spring. Got a little plastic piece on the bottom that you're not going to use. That's just there to protect the pins so they don't get damaged during shipping. You'll take that off right before you put it in. On the back side, let's point a couple things out. These little cutouts here is how it snaps onto the steering column. This piece that sticks up right here, that's the actual portion that cancels your turn signal. Because your turn signal multifunction switch has a little lever that comes out and it has to make contact with that. If that breaks off, it's not going to cancel properly. That's why it's sitting up higher than the rest of it. On the front side, we've got a lock on it. The lock is going to come off once we get it properly installed, and it just gets thrown aside, trashed. If you look from the top, like I was telling you, you got a little warning sign here, and you got an arrow pointing down. This is supposed to be a little indication of a vehicle with 4 wheels, and of course they're looking straight. Here's another vehicle, 4 wheels with the front wheels turned, X to it. So in other words, like I said, you want the steering wheel to be straight, you want the wheels to be straight. That way you know that this clock spring is in the proper orientation. They even have a little window here when the white lines up. Otherwise you can have this 360 degrees out. It will mount up fine, it'll work fine till you go to make a sharp turn, one of the 2 directions, and then it will snap the internal workings of this clock spring. So what is a clock spring? I've said it 10,000 times so far. Clock spring is a means of running wires or circuits from the steering column up to your steering wheel. So what's the big issue with that? Well, keep in mind, steering wheel turns. So you might turn your steering wheel 3-4 times to make a sharp turn, where the wires inside have to make a complete circuit. Just normal wires would actually spin, spool up, and would eventually break. Right, so look right here at the multi-function switch. That little white piece is the turn signal arm that comes in contact with the raised area on this clock spring right here. That's the cancel portion. Now right here you got a red lock that keeps the clock spring locked in place. Our steering column has a notch straight up so everything's still lined up. Take the protective sleeve off the pins here. Now we'll just be guiding it down here. It'd be we got to go right where the steering angle sensor is. There's a portion that the pins will go down in. It's kind of funnel shaped, so it'll guide itself into the connector down below. Just kind of get it started, put it over the steering column, and then start pressing down until it's fully seated. Kind of look at all your fasteners and where they should line up. Everything should still be straight up, line up till it fully snaps in place. Now all we got to do is work on tightening down the 3 Torx screws. Alright, so I'm tightening down the last of the 3 Torx screws. Everything's fully seated now. We'll go ahead and make sure it looks like it's fully seated. We'll also go ahead and get ready to pull that red lock off that we're no longer needing. Just check that everything moves smoothly. As long as it moves freely, we're good to go. Here's a quick pointer for when you're going to reinstall the clock spring. Not only does the steering wheel have to be straight, keep an eye on your turn signal. If you've got it either in the down or up position for left or right, the cam that makes contact with the clock spring will be too far in, and then the clock spring will sit on top of it. So definitely make sure you got it in the rest position. You don't have it turning left or right. You've got it in the dead center. That way the clock spring sits completely flush. So definitely make sure you do that. Now it's time to reinstall the steering wheel. I've already taken the lock off. Everything's lined up where it needs to be. We're going to go ahead and guide the wires back to this little opening on the side of the steering wheel. Now the steering wheel is actually keyed to go directly only one way on the steering column. So as you're rotating it around, it will line up and then it will be on. There is no, I can turn it this way, I can turn it that way. It doesn't work that way. It is keyed to only go on one way. So now what we'll do is get our 10mm Allen bolt, put it back through there, and we'll get ready to tighten it down and torque it down. Center bolt, you're going to torque it down to 52 foot-pounds. 52 foot-pounds on the bolt that holds the steering wheel to the steering column. Remember that, 52 foot-pounds. Once that's torqued down, we're going to move on to the airbag assembly, reinstalling it. We've already hooked up, I've gone ahead and hooked up the white connector we took loose earlier. All we got to worry about is now plugging in the airbag. We got 2 of them right here. We also got that wire tie that had that router on it that we put over that stud. And then we got the horn pad. Now we just position it correctly on the steering wheel, sit it down, and then of course we get to the back side to put the 2 10mm on, which is how we started this whole procedure. Once we're done, we'll make sure the operation of the turn signal is working fine. It cancels when we go left, cancels when we go right. We want to make sure everything's steering column related is working, because we were working on it. We didn't want to have to accidentally break something. So if you had done the steering angle sensor, if you'd done the speed control switch, if you had done the multi-function switch, all that, airbag, horn buttons, the switches here for your menu as well as ready, make sure they all work. We were working on that area. We want to make sure we didn't cause any damage. So there you have it. Now you know what you need to do to replace that clock spring. So make sure everything's perfectly straight. I've got to say it over and over. The thing about a clock spring is there's that sweet spot, rest area. It has to have the steering wheel straight, and you also got to have the wheels on the vehicle pointed straight. Because yes, you could turn the steering wheel 360 degrees. The steering wheel's not straight, but now the wheels on the vehicle are turned. So make sure both of them are straight. And then when you put it back together, you should be good to go and not have any problems. Just take care in that step. I keep saying it over and over and over, but it is very important to make sure you don't overlook it. So at this point, there's Frank, and thumbs up on YouTube. Don't forget to like me on Facebook. You can check me out on both Twitter and Instagram as well. And if you got any kind of comments or suggestions about this video or anything else Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, or Ram related, please feel free to email me at david@motorcitymechanic.com, and I'll try to get back to you in a timely manner. In the meantime, I always appreciate you watching these videos. Thank you.